Hello, welcome to my daily Atlas Mountain Race coverage. This is day one, so let's get over to map progress and have a little look and see what's happened on the first night of the race. So as I record, it's around 11 AM local time on the first morning of the race. The race actually started at 5 PM last night, so it was due to start at 6, but like always on the Atlas Mountain Race, there's always something at the start. I mean, that's a summary of the whole race really. There's always something, it's never simple. And the race was actually brought forward to 5 PM as opposed to 6 PM because basically the weather's absolutely horrendous. Really heavy rain in Beni Mellal, which is the new start town. As you would have seen if you'd watched my preview video, the race start was already changed, the route, because of the weather. There's high snowpack up high. It's been one of the wettest winters on record in Morocco. They've been in drought for a number of years, and it looks like all the rain has come all at once. So yeah, there's high snowpack. So if you look at the map here, you can see that the route was due to take a bit more of a direct, more remote way over the mountains, but instead it's ended up going over the sort of the main pass through this region, which is still quite high. There's some high altitude. You can see from the elevation chart on the side here that there's a sustained amount of time above 2,000 meters, and 2,000 meters in the dark, in the rain, is going to be cold. But we'll come on to that in more detail further along. Before I get any further, I do have a couple of sponsors for this coverage. So I need to say thank you to Enduro Bearings. I've been using Enduro Bearings on my bikes for 3 years now. Actually, I've used the bearings on the Atlas Mountain Race. The bearings I've been using, or I've used at the Atlas Mountain Race, are these XD15 bearings. So I use them in the bottom bracket and the wheels. So the key features about the XD15 bearings and why they make them, really good for this kind of scenario, is that they are ceramic hybrid bearings. So they use a really high grade steel for the sort of outer shell of the bearing. So it's nitrogen infused stainless steel or stainless alloy that doesn't corrust or rust or corrode. So where you're in like really hard situations like this, at least you can rely on your bearings. They also use slightly deeper grooves than standard bearings, and then bigger ball bearings. So that means they're just a little bit stronger as well. So yeah, they last really well. The bottom bracket I've got on the bike that I use for the Atlas it's done 2 Atlases. It's done Silk Road, and it did Alps Divide, and I've not touched it, and it's still running really smooth, if not smoother than when I got it. So I definitely recommend looking at Enduro bearings if you come to replace your bottom bracket and think about doing one of these events. So thank you to Enduro Bearings. And then the other sponsor of this coverage is Bucks and Box. Now these are a new sponsor for coverage. As you can see, they are high quality bike boxes. A lot of riders will be flying to the start of these races, and yeah, we all know that luggage handlers are not necessarily the kindest to bike boxes sometimes. Actually, I saw a couple of boxes on various people's Instagram before the start where bikes were hanging out and damaged chain rings and things like that. That can be avoided somewhat by like a proper bike box. So Bucks and Box are high quality aluminium bike boxes. They're made in the UK. You can see there's various different sizes to fit different bike types. So I'll go into more details about that throughout the week. But in the meantime, I've got a bit of a sample here actually. So I've got one coming, which I'm very much looking forward to use. Let me put you onto big screen so you can see the kind of construction inside here. So aluminium paneling, so you're not going to get a pedal or a handlebar. But the latest trip I just came back from, I had a brake lever hanging out the side of the box when I returned home, which is never ideal. That's not going to happen with an aluminium case. And you can see it's a rigid construction inside, and you have these little hub adapters, so the bike's fixed firmly in place. It's not going to move around. So yeah, that is Bucks and Box. So a big thank you to those guys for supporting this coverage and enabling me to do what I do. So yeah, let's get back to the race. I'm sure you don't want to hear about bearings or bike boxes anymore. Let's have a little look at this race route on Riber GPS. So this is where the race route, as I said, was meant to go. it has been changed due to bad weather. You can see there was meant to be quite remote and quite a few off-road sections in the start here, but the route has changed to take on this main road here. So if we zoom in, you can see the road goes through Immachill, and it's a big sort of plateau up there. So this is where the riders would have been last night, and then it kind of intersects the route again, kind of around Ting here, this kind of area, and then this is kind of the remote section that's normally featured in the Atlas Mountain Race. So you can see on map progress, the riders are all looping across that plateau at the moment. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame to change it round. However, it's definitely needed, and I think Nelson made a really good call changing that, because the weather just does look grim. I'm just going to put on the wind layer on Ride with GPS. Looks like it's fairly settled up there, but it looks like a low front, a low pressure, which means that probably the cold air has sat in on that high plateau. You quite often see on in Morocco, certainly around the Atlas Mountain races, that the kind of the weather's split north and south of the Atlas Mountains. So if I go to the terrain, the Google map, Google terrain, you can see there's quite a divide. Like the north section is where all the snow dumps, all the rain dumps. Quite often this section here, in between the anti-Atlas and the Atlas, is quite hot and deserty. It's a bit lower. And the anti-Atlas, I mean, you can get high up there, but it's not quite as high as the main Atlas. And you can see after you go through the anti-Atlas, you're basically in the Sahara Desert. So I suspect the weather is going to improve for the riders as they get across the main Atlas mountain range. However, it does look like it's been a very grim night. So yeah, I'm sure there's some very cold hands and feet as these riders are progressing. It's worth noting that it's not unusual. Maybe it's a little bit extreme this year with the amount of precipitation. But I've done 3 editions of the Atlas Mountain Race, and every edition there has been some rain at some point crossing the mountains. The first edition, the route was unchanged. However, we crossed over the mountains, and then there was it had rained up high, and then all the water had rushed down. So all the rivers were really high. So we had to stop the race for a while to allow the water levels to go down for a river crossing. The second year, there was snow and terrible weather up high, so we had to loop around on the road across the highest pass. And then last year, it didn't actually rain in the race itself, but there was snow up on the first pass. So yeah, it's not unusual. It looks like it is particularly grim this year, though. So yeah, wishing the Atlas riders all the luck. You can see, I'll just show. I put my personal activities on the heat layer on Atlas Mountain Race to see how the route changes. I did touch on this on the preview. So you can see normally the race starts in Marrakesh. You can see the bit of chaos where various the start has been changed over the last 3 years I've done it. So riders are going to be intersecting the route in this section here. So this is normally it's about 100k, 60 miles from this point here on the N10. There's the fabled gas station. To Avra, which is down here, or Afra. This year, however, the riders are going to be approaching that section from a more easterly direction. It's going to mean it's going to be slightly longer. I think it's almost 150k without resupply on that section, but it is straight after the checkpoint, which is around here somewhere in here, Buthara. And the first riders have reached that. We'll check the tracker again in a minute. If you're interested in the heat maps and all of that, you can get that on a Ride GPS Premium subscription. I'll put that up in a link on the screen now if you want to sign up for that. I'm also I'm trying to grow memberships on my YouTube channel. The main benefits of that is you get these updates a little bit earlier, a couple of hours earlier than everyone else. I'll also be doing some Q&A sessions. I'll do one later in the week. So if you've got any questions and you're signed up as a member, put them in the comments and I'll do my best to run through them all and answer those in a dedicated members video. And also I've got prize draws for all the members. So the prize draw for this race coverage is a premium subscription from Ride GPS. So that's a year subscription. So I'll do a random draw and announce that in the Q&A video. So yeah, sign up if you really like this kind of stuff, and it really does help me carry on doing this and bring you all the coverage. So that's enough of me talking about memberships. Let's get back to the race tracker. and look at it in a little bit more detail. So first rider to CP1, and he's been there quite a while now, is Victor Bazzoni. So you may remember he won the Transcontinental race last summer. This is his first sort of big attempt at an off-road race. And he's made a good start so far. However, what I will say is that it's been pretty much road all the way over this big pass. I've raced him actually in the Tracker 560, so he's definitely got some off-road experience. But we'll see. It's the Tracker 560 and the Atlas Mountain Race are two very different races. Second place, Rob Britton. He was one of the pre-race favourites. He's won, some of these big races. Unbound XL over in the USA. He's won Badlands. Got some pedigree. Ex-pro rider. I'm not surprised at all that he's up there. Third place, Adam Jordan. I don't know much about Adam, so yeah, we'll keep an eye on him. Sebastian Trimborn, again, don't know an awful lot about him. And Olia Bjorg Smithsjell. I'm sorry for my Norwegian pronunciations, not ideal. These riders seem to be kind of ahead of the pack, but at this stage, it doesn't mean an awful lot. It's kind of a case of, have riders always push too hard too early, and I think those really cold conditions up here, you can see how spread out the field is. It's really, really going to, take some energy to ride through that, especially if the riders get cold. And I think it's no surprise that Victor's actually been at that checkpoint probably a fair while now. And I suspect most riders will just fall in through the door and just want to eat food and get warm, and then hopefully approach the day and some warmer weather, and this remote section without resupply with a bit more energy. I wouldn't put too much stead on the kind of the rankings at this particular stage. For me, the first 2 days, there's going to be, like you can see these top 10. There's going to be people that scratch. 100% people in this top 10 now are going to scratch in the next day 3 is normally the day that gets people. I would keep an eye on Thomas Bure. He's currently in 11th. He's super experienced. This is his 4th time at the race, and he's podiumed. He's come 5th, and he knows how to race it. So for me, if you're looking for like the benchmark for kind of like the top 5, Thomas he's going to come strong at the end, I suspect. He normally does. Floris Bratt, he's another name just to keep an eye on. I raced him quite closely at the Hellenic Mountain Race. He finished 3rd last year, so again, he's a strong guy. Chris Melman, again, on paper is really strong, not super experienced at this length of race and this remoteness, and it looks like he had some problems overnight, so we'll come on to that when we check out the social media in a while. On to the women. So Cynthia Carson, she's leading the way. She looks like she's, where is Cynthia? Just cresting this, or heading down from the high pass. So she's heading down towards that checkpoint. Cynthia, she's really experienced. She's already won the women's title at the Atlas Mountain Race. So it looks like she's made a pretty strong start. In second place, not too far behind, is Kerry McPhee. And again, She's done well in races such as the Highland Trail 550, and it remains to be seen how that experience translates into the Atlas Mountain Race. However, she does live in Scotland, so I don't think she'll be too surprised by the cold conditions up there. Anna Richter's in 3rd place. Again, it's looking quite close at the front of the women's race. There's plenty to race for, and like I said, there's not too much. I wouldn't take too much stead in these kind of rankings now. Another couple of names. Max Cerise. I missed him out of my my preview yesterday, so sorry, Max, if you're listening. This is available on podcast as well as YouTube if you are racing and you want to catch up. I managed to miss Max off. I think I was looking at the preliminary start list, not the final start list. So sorry if I missed a few names. He's super strong. He was 4th at Tour de Vide last year. Really good climber as well. We'll see how Max gets on. But again, he's looking like a strong start. Mark Bushell, he's finished, I think he was 11th a couple of years back in the Atlas. Plenty of names to keep an eye on. The start list is always deep at the Atlas Mountain Race. It's going to be exciting to watch. To be honest, at the moment, I just feel sorry for these riders because it looked like it was a pretty grim night. So let's go over to Instagram. And there's not an awful lot to find at the moment. I'm sure we'll see more stuff from more riders, but obviously it's been dark, it's been cold, and I'm sure riders have got better things to be doing than posting stuff on their phones at the moment. But the Atlas Mountain Race always has a really good media crew, some great photographers. They have a good podcast as well if you want some reports from on the ground. Obviously my perspective is a bit different because I'm sort of bringing everything together from afar. So I think, the two podcasts and coverage complement each other. So obviously they're going to be interviewing riders on that podcast, whereas I'm sort of collating information from that's out there already. So this is Beni Mellal. So it's about 100k from Marrakesh, and it's like whereas Marrakesh is a very tourist-centric town, Beni Mellal is like a real town. You know, it's Moroccan people live there. There's not a huge amount of tourism. There is a little bit, but not a massive amount. It's a really cool city, actually. I went there a couple of years ago, and it's basically at the foothills of the Atlas. So you start in the city and you head straight up the mountains, and as you can see here, this is the race start, straight up a massive climb. So at least the riders be warm to start. And yeah, rain everywhere. It looks grim. There's a lot of hoods in there. There's one thing about the Atlas Mountain Race is everyone thinks, it's a nice sunny race in Morocco. I'll go and get some early season sunshine in February. But it never works out that way. It's always grim in one way or another, either really cold or a little bit wet or both or too hot. That's just Atlas for you. It's a very attritional race. So there's Thomas Bouret. He's one of the favourites. Incidentally, he got a new bike sponsor this year. He's riding Fairlight bikes. And so riders were off. And here's some shots from the first pass. And as you can see, there's a lot of water running down that pass. Full waterproofs. It just looks horrendous, to be honest. I'm pretty glad I'm sat here in the warm of my house. It looks like there are some small towns up there for some resupply. I think that's Chris Melman. Look at that. Hoods up, rain trousers on, rain gloves on. If you didn't take rain trousers, you're going to be regretting it. You're going to be in for a very, very cold night, and just stopping for any kind of resupply that's available. That looks like condensed milk in a bottle. I guess it's good for calories. Not sure if I'd like that or not, but there we go. And there we go. Yeah, more cold. That's Kerry McPhee, one of the favourites for the women's race. And you can see there's still snow up high, and this is the reason the route was changed, because on the original passes going up to nearly 3,000 metres, there was pretty high snowpack. Looks grim. That's Cynthia Carson currently leading. A cold night for the Atlas riders. So next up, this is Jake Cullen. I'm basically just going to run this video. This was taken just before the start, and oh god, yeah, that rain is heavy. So that's what the riders basically set out into.
Okay, we are heading into night one. Riding for a little over 2 hours, and I've done close to 40k and about 1,400 meters of climbing. Fast start. I mainly just I glove on my bars. I'm happy, feeling good. I'm consuming carbs and water, just trying to feel right, and push through the night. Updates probably be few and far.
There's a lot of shivering riders there. Yeah, so Jake, he's done Silk Road and stuff like that. So as you said, a really fast start. It's always a way at Atlas. People just tend to go off way too fast. I don't know what it is, but
it's fucking freezing. I think it's lowest I saw was -4, but the road over the last pass I was on was a literal sheet of ice, and I just had to cross a flooding road and soaked my left foot, and it's currently still -2, so not stoked with that. But the good news is you can see the waterfall in the background. The sun is rising. There's the moon. The official day one starting soon, I guess. I don't know if it's day 1 or day 2, but yeah, ready to rock and roll and just make it to CP1. Sleep inside tonight is my hope and my plan. That's all there is to it. Just gotta ride.
So yeah, effing freezing. I think that summarises it, and it looks pretty grim conditions up there. Obviously, the riders got soaked climbing up. I imagine they probably climb up above the clouds, and then obviously at that altitude, it's just going to freeze. So there's some interesting videos coming up in a second as well. So this is Justinia. She's I've not actually seen where she is on the route at the moment, but it looks like she's had problems. Cut her tyre, and basically just look at that road, just sheet ice. You can see it's like almost hard to ride on it. It's so slippery. So yeah, it's obviously rains and then frozen. So that's going to be grim, and the descent's going to be sketchy as well. It's just never simple, is it? But it looks pretty spectacular. Look at that road. This is why you do this stuff. You wouldn't normally be riding up there. And again, more riders hiding next to wood burners, trying to dry feet, dry socks. Stop shaking. This is going to take a massive toll on people, a really massive toll on people. But you can see this is a morning shot, so it looks like the sun is up. So hopefully these riders will be warming up. But yeah, it's I think that says it all. It was a hard night. So there's going to be some riders cracking in a few days' time. That's the thing about Atlas. If you go too hard too early, you've got to conserve energy. You're not going to get the calories you need. It doesn't matter who you are. There's just not enough food on the Atlas Mountain Race. There's plenty of bread and omelettes and things like that, but in terms of pure calories, it's tricky to keep fueled up, and wasting energy getting cold. It's not wasting. Everyone's going to get cold, but if you get really cold, it's going to burn energy. So we're going to see some spectacular cracks in the next few days. It's almost guaranteed. And here's Niels Langer, one of the race photographers, taking it easy. So yeah, obviously frozen and frosty, that's the race car. This is Mel Webb. She runs the podcast, and she's out on the road. And you can see like the road looks icy, snow on the mountains. I bet it looks beautiful. And this is the podcast. So check out the Atlas Mountain Race podcast. And then Chris Mellman, so it looks like he had a problem overnight. Let's see what that was.
Current status, my free hub is frozen, and I can just spin my cranks without it engaging. So, yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do. Ugh.
So it sounds like basically, I suspect he's maybe got water in his free hub, and it's basically just frozen the pools in. Or sometimes if you've got too much grease in there, the grease can get really thick and sticky, and it can stick the pools inside the free hub, and then they don't ping out, and therefore if you backpedal, the pools get stuck down. The solution is to warm it up, basically, or just keep pedaling and don't freewheel. So I suspect he's probably found a bit of shelter, maybe warmed it up, and it looks like he's moving again on the tracker. When we looked a while back, he's obviously made some progress again. I wouldn't be surprised actually if this does him a favour in the long term, because he's one of the favourites on paper for the race. I suspect that maybe being forced to slow down is going to pay him back in the long term. I'm sure he probably ended up having to find some shelter and stop, and would have eaten food again, saved some energy. Whereas these guys at the front would have really drilled it. So if he's ridden sensibly, I think Chris, it's not going to affect Chris too much. But that's the if he's ridden sensibly. So we shall see. And then finally, just a little story from Lloyd. He's one of the race photographers, and yeah, that's Atlas Life. I bet these shops are very happy. They're going to be doing a lot of business tonight. But yeah, looks absolutely freezing, absolutely grim. So yeah, hopefully it gets better for these riders as the race progresses, which I'm sure it will. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this stuff, don't forget to subscribe. If you really, really like it, sign up for a membership, and we've got that Riber GPS Premium subscription to give away. And yeah, if you're listening on the podcast, thanks for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for watching, and I'll be back again tomorrow. So see you then.